With the updated list of the world's biggest selling rums in the last 12 months due out in a matter of weeks, I thought it was about time that I focused on those rums that are featured in this for the last few years. Now, these three rums sitting here in front of me, yes, I am playing silly buggers, but they're here for a reason, because these are what I would call three of the biggest brands here in the UK, certainly some, in my opinion, some of the best producing rums. And I think it's fair to say that they probably wouldn't even come close to making the top 100, let alone the top 10. But who knows the rate these guys are going, they might break the top 100. Wouldn't that be cool to have a British scratch rum in the top 100? That'd be amazing. Now, to a lot of my viewers, if you haven't seen this list over the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, then you might actually be shocked by some of the brands that sit in it. Now, what I'm going to be doing in this video, I'm going to be having, like, not a blind tasting, but a tasting of 6 of the rums, or 6 of the brands, I should say, that are featuring this top 10. Bearing in mind that we can't get 4 of them here in the UK because they are pretty much either Indian or Czech Republic, and they sell huge volumes in their native countries. They don't export to the UK or the US markets. But before I do that and compare the rums, I just kind of want to flip the lid, if you like, and kind of show you who the big 10 are. Now, to a lot of you, if you haven't seen this list, you might be expecting these 6 brands to be amongst it, because in Rum World, these are probably the 6 brands that make a lot, if not the most noise. I mean, a lot of those are obvious, but I've got the Dawleys there, but I mean Foursquare in general. For rum lovers, Foursquare seems to be the pinnacle, if not Mount Gay, but Dawleys is just there representing Foursquare. As I say, you might be expecting these brands on there for good reason. As I say, they do make a lot of noise, but they do produce phenomenal quality rum. But I'm going to shatter that illusion, because they do not even get a look in. They are nowhere near being in the top 10. They are so far away from being in the top 10 that even for the likes of Foursquare, let's just say Foursquare for example, even if Foursquare tripled their volume, I still don't think they would make it into the top 25. Now, building the suspense up even more, many people, many of you might comment on these videos, might be thinking that these would feature as well in the top 10. They don't, but they're a lot closer than some of those brands that I've just featured. I mean, in the last few years, I don't know the actual figure, but I think Kraken has been at number 13 or number 14, and Bumbu not that far behind either. Now, I'm going to flash that list, that top 10 list, up on screen beside me so you can kind of see that. But what I've got here is what I would naturally assume. Now, obviously, we don't know how distilleries break that down in the volumes they sell, but what I can naturally perceive to be the biggest selling rums. I naturally assume, and I think Tanduay have said this, that Tanduay might be a shock to you, that Tanduay are out there in the Philippines, but the Philippines is like the population of Philippines is huge, so you can understand it sells a lot. But, you know, I think it is this rum more than their Tanduay, I forget what it's called now, the white rum, the unaged version of this. I think it's this rum that actually sells the most volume. I know full well when it comes to Bacardi that this is the big seller in number 2. And I know full well that when it comes to Captain Morgan's, this is the big seller as well, Spiced Gold. Now, when it comes to the 4th, 7th, 8th and 9th place rums, they're the rums that we just simply don't get here. McDowell's is an Indian brand. Again, I've no idea of any of their brands, just don't see it here at all in the UK. Old Port is an Indian brand. Again, I've no idea what sort of rum they produce. Contessa, I have seen bottles of Contessa, but again, I wouldn't have a clue of what their big selling rums are. The other one is Boskov as well. I think that's how, apologies if that's not how you say it, but from the Czech Republic. But just coming back very slightly to the 5th place, again, I'm not actually sure which of the Havanas would be the big sellers as well. I actually think it would probably be the Havana Especial is their big seller, but that could be the 3. In the UK, they fluctuate in price. In the UK, the 3-year-old is actually a lot cheaper, or a bit cheaper than what the Especial is. However, when you talk to Havana, that's their cheap rum, if you like. So I don't know which one of those actually is the big seller. I think that's it. It could be millions of cases between it. I don't know, but I probably think Havana Especial will be the biggie. When it comes to Barcelo, there is another one that I thought I had a bottle here. I did a taste there. I don't know where the bottle's gone, but it's the Dorado, I think it is. Again, I would naturally assume it's actually the Dorado, or maybe that one, the Gran Añejo, is their big sellers, but it might be the white rum. Again, who knows? Thinking those kind of Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico and those kind of things with the mojitos and the daiquiris, the Spanish colonies, they're the cocktails. It might actually be the white rum that's the big one. I don't know. But when it comes to Appleton, there is no question at all in the slightest that the Appleton signature is Appleton's biggest selling rum and will make up the vast majority of those, that number you're seeing on screen now. Today's video is sponsored by me. If you had a chance to download my free rum ebook yet, if not, you'll find the link below in the description of this video, or you can scan the QR code that's popping up on screen right now. My free rum ebook gets updated twice a year and is packed full of interesting information and tips of how you can enjoy rum. It also includes a few basic rum cocktail recipes, plus how to make one of my favorites, the dragon fruit and papaya daiquiri. So what are you waiting for? As I said, you'll find the link in the description below, or you can scan that QR code. Right, back to the video. Now, as I mentioned a minute ago, the rums I am going to be tasting are not those cheaper brands. I wanted to go up a notch. They're premium upgrades because I know the vast majority of you that watch my channel are steadily down your rum journey and probably wouldn't be buying the cheap rums, the really cheap rums. You want to know about something else. So these are not like for like comparisons, if you like, because we know full well that the Appleton 8-year-old is going to taste wildly different to something like the Captain Morgan private stock. It's Jamaican pot still rum compared to Havana 7, which is Cuban column still rum. They are incomparable in that sense. But what I do want to do is try and convey the differences in the taste to you so you can make up your own minds. Now, just to clear one other thing up before I dive into these as well, I say premium upgrades. Why have I not gone Appleton 12? Why not gone Bacardi 10? I wanted to keep this to a close price kind of difference, but also a close age. I know the Captain Morgan private stock is with like quite a young age compared to some of the 8-year-olds, but they are what I see as the premium upgrades. Okay, I know there's a bit of confusion with Rumwell that don't necessarily talk bar talk language when it comes to premium and super premium and elite and all this sort of stuff, but these are very much premium upgrades to their base entry level. So this is my first ever tasting of the Tanduay Double Rum. I've made a note of this. This is a blend of 5 and 16-year-old rums. All right, so let's dive in for this. On the nose, this is quite interesting actually. Coffee, orange, like orange bitters, orange peel, little touch of vanilla. It's not smelling overly sweet. Little touch of coffeeness on there as well. For rum, and bear in mind, I do like my younger aged rums because I don't like that heavy aged rum, the wood vibes that come off there. This smells quite inviting to me. Do you know what? That's really surprised me. That, I'd buy a bottle of that. Well, I have. I'd have that, be on the bar. Yeah, I dare say there's a little bit of sweetness to it, but as I've said, I'm not against sweetness. Is it Plantation XO levels, like 20 grams of sugar? Is it Diplomatico? Yeah, Diplomatico levels, 40 grams of sugar. No, not even remotely close. That's quite nice. You see, flavoured. This is the other distinguishment I kind of have to talk through. Now, for example, where I'm going with this, and this is a phenomenon that I kind of want to get my head around in brandy on my brandy channel as well. It's this bitter orange vibe. That is way too orange forward for me to think. And again, it could be down to the barrels that they're using to age it, and I don't know. But I would expect like a muscat. I haven't done the research on these, but there's a lot of orange coming on there that I wouldn't necessarily expect from, what is it, a 5 and a 16-year-old rum. But that is flipping delicious. That is really good rum. So let me kind of talk you through it just very quickly. I've got this oakiness to it without being over-aged. There's a little touch of vanilla-iness to it. There is this, I'm going to stick with coffee. There is this kind of muted coffee vibe to it, but it is this orange bitters. It's like Angostura orange bitters. That's the kind of vibe that I get. Is this grippiness around the tongue that does give you that nod to aging. Do you know what? That sort of spice bind that I'm going, not peppery spice, not dry cinnamon or anything like that, just a little bit of grippiness, a little bit of sort of peppery tingle around it. Do you know what? I'm actually really pleasantly surprised by that rum. I've just got on the back here. Not, hang on. Blended and matured for oak barrels for an additional 2 years. So that makes, I've got it off their website that it's a 5 and a 16-year-old rum. So I'm assuming they've blended that together and then matured it for 2 years. Honestly, that's surprised me. That's delicious. Moving on to the next one. So we're going to go down the list, and I've gone for Bacardi 8. This will be like, I haven't had it for quite a while, but no stranger to me. The Bacardi 8, I've proclaimed as like the gateway to like premium aged rums. You know, for those people that have come from spiced rums, I don't think there's anything here that's going to put you off a longer aged rums. I think this is a good stepping stone to take you up there. I have done, but it's been a while since I've had this. 3, 4, 5. I'm not even convinced I've had it in 2024, to be honest. But let's just reacquaint ourselves with it. So there is this vanilla-y carameliness to it. It does, smelling against that, it does smell a little bit sweeter. There is this fruity, stone fruity vibe going on. And like, if you were going to smell this alongside like Bacardi 4 or, you know, Bacardi Especial or something like that, there's no mistaking that this is longer aged. So you're getting that extra kind of wood. But I think that little extra touch of sweetness, that vanilla notes that come off there, as I say, I think it's a great gateway rum. I really do. Now, what has surprised me there, I'm not taking anything back. I do like that, but that for me is hands down. Whether that's because I'm further down my rum journey now, whether that's because I'm appreciating rums that are less sweet, if you like, and those sort of things. But that is hands down over that. This has got this, there is this lovely fruitiness to it, but it's a little bit sweeter. And this is the fascinating thing about revisiting rums from stuff that you absolutely loved 2 years ago, 18 months ago, a year ago. Because now, this is not a rum. I know where it sits in the market. I get it, and I'm totally there. I totally think this is a great gateway rum from sweeter spiced rums to get you into proper aged rums. But once you're there, once you've come from your bamboos and your krakens and those sort of rums up to this sort of style, I think something like that is actually so much better. This for me now is actually a little bit too sweet, and I really do like this. There's caramel, there's vanilla, there's a bit of barrel aging. There's this sort of fruity vibe, stone fruity vibe that comes off. There's soft, peachy, apricot-y vibe. It's a good. I'm not going to take it back. It still is there for me as a gateway rum. I'm just hands down preferring that now. So now the third one, the private stock, Captain Morgan private stock. I have just filmed. So this is in the same filming session. Hopefully, I think it will come out. Not sure it will, actually. I'm not sure how it will come out. If you haven't seen it already, it's on my yellow or my main rum channel, and I've done a video about this. So I'm not going to give any spoilers. Go and watch that video, what I think about this. I'm not going to proclaim whether I like it or not. Go and watch that video. I'm just going to kind of proclaim what this is. This was a very new rum to me. I was very surprised about how it tasted. I just go and watch that video without giving too much away here. Because I think this one will actually come out before that one on Sunday. I think you're going to watch this. For those of you who watch videos live, I think you're going to watch this and then watch this video on Sunday. That's kind of a bit of a faux pas on my behalf. But this is, you know, it's a massive step up from Captain Morgan, spiced gold, whatever you want to call it. It's, you know, let's just have a little taste. It's nowhere near as sweet as I was expecting. There's plenty of vanilla. There's plenty of spice coming out there. For me, also I'm going to say in this video, so I don't ruin the other video, if you haven't seen it yet, also I'm going to say, when I started filming this, I was convinced this was coming out, but I've just seen the calendar in front of me and I know this video is coming out before that one. Also I'm going to say is this is a massive step up from Captain Morgan Spiced Gold. A massive step up. You're going to have to see how I really think about it and compare it to brands that it's playing in the same league as. But whether you're comparing it to normal Captain Morgan Spiced Gold, This is a huge step up. It's a decent, really decent spiced rum, but it is a spiced rum. Don't think it, just because it says private stock, don't think it's not a spiced rum. It is. Now, before I dive into the Havana 7-year-old, I just want to preempt this. Is that the right word to use? I've proclaimed this now for a couple of years as I don't like this rum at all. I really do like I'm always going to call it a Havana Cuban Barrel Proof, but it's Selection de Maestros. I really do like that. I've got an Havana 11-year-old down there, exclusive for the Whiskey Exchange. Really do like this. For some unknown reason, the Havana 7-year-old has just never sat with me. But I know through doing my own tastings and blind tastings that my palate has dramatically changed over the last 6 months or so. Like just predating doing that Jamaican series in September 2023, and then going on to Barbados in October 2023, and then all right, we did the advent calendar in December. From that whole experience, and actually the agricole before that, I know my palate's changed, and I don't think I've had that rum since. So this is actually going to be really interesting. So on the nose, vanilla, actually quite pronounced vanilla on that. Actually, to be, I don't know whether it's the Captain Morgan. Actually, that's stupid using that same glass. I have just added water to that, but I'm going to get a different glass. And don't worry, we're not going to waste that rum at all. That's not in my DNA. Right, let's go for this. Clean glass. I should have done this because I don't know whether that was. I wasn't expecting it to be that vanilla forward. But it is vanilla forward, but not as much as that is. No. Oh, I don't know. Actually, that has quite surprised me. This is actually, wow, I don't remember that being that vanilla forward. Now, this is not a sweet vanilla forward. There's this element of woodiness to it, like oak aging. There is, you know, there's this element of caramel to it as well. Get a faint bit of fruit, but nowhere near as much as that in the Bacardi 8. But I think the Bacardi 8 is a little bit sweeter. If you like, dare say maybe a little bit of dosage or something like that. It's the vanilla that surprised me. Do you know what? I'm not actually convinced. I'm not actually convinced there's much residue from that Captain Morgan private stock in that glass. It is clean glass. It is vanilla forward, and there it is on the taste. I'm not as much adverse to it as what I was, but I get why I thought I didn't like it. That is just, it's not got a hint of fruit to it, not much. It's quite chocolatey coffee kind of vibe. Not sure if I've picked that up before. I say this is like tasting a new rum to me. I haven't had this for a long while. Vanilla, caramel, yes. Oak barrel, there's this spice to it. There is this like wood oakiness to it, but there is this caramelly kind of coffee, chocolate mocha, let's go mocha kind of vibe to it. You know what? Having doing this recently, the instant comparison I'm going to is the Dictador 12. I think roughly, well, I think that's actually a bit more expensive. But the Dictador 12 does this rum a lot better. And yes, it is more expensive, but it is a much more pleasurable experience. This is just like rough. I understand why I don't like it now. And kind of there, it's just like a little bit rough around the edges. It's it's decent. It is. It's not as sweet as the Bacardi 8. I get that now. But again, at the same price bracket, I'd have that Tanduay. Again, absolutely no hands down. I would have the Dictador 12 over that for the same sort of profile. That coffee, chocolate, wood, oak aging with a touch of vanilla. That sort of profile there. It's not a Guyana profile. It's completely different because you get those notes, but with a little bit of dried fruit there as well. I understand why this has fans. This is probably a great rum and coke rum. Maybe even a ginger beer rum, to be honest, and probably a cocktail rum. But for me, it's just something that doesn't quite sit right for me with this. Right. rinse the glass out with water. Definitely re-rinsed. I've had 2 or 3 glasses of water from that. Right, let's go for the Barcelo Imperial. Again, I think this is pretty much, do you know what? I think pretty much here in the UK, because Barcelo doesn't actually sell that much here in the UK, this could actually be close to being one of their biggest sellers in the UK. So I know the volume of rum that they sell is a lot. I would naturally assume that's actually the market is their local market and the local islands around there, because actually from what I see, this is the Barcelo that is definitely the thing in the UK market. The Blanco, I think it's Blanco, I've put it right now. The Blanco, the Carta Dorada, the Gran Añejo really don't get that much of a look in. So it's not too much of a stretch. But again, I haven't had this rum for a good few months. So this is going to be interesting. And there is an aroma on here that I can't pick at the moment. But again, comparing these, so the one thing that I've had so far, discounting my love for that Tanduay, is that actually how sweet that Bacardi 8-year-old is. That shocks me from memory. Again, this is what, you know, training your palate and drinking different rums does, because that's now gone from what I think is, or what I would say everyone to try, to actually thinking, do you know what? It's actually a little bit sweet for many, many rum people. This has still got this aroma. I'm trying to formulate it in my head. This has still got this aroma, this vanilla-iness, this carameliness, this barrel aging. There's something that I can't quite pick in there. But this smells really inviting. This is drawing me in. Do you know what? I'm going to really put this out there. And I don't know where this just came from. Prunes. Dried prunes. I don't know where I've just plucked that from, but there's something more to it than a dried raisin or sultana or something like that. It's this fruit, but a little bit more juicy, dried, mixed fruit, if you like. Right, enough noses. We don't care about noses. Let's just dive in. Now, again, straight out of the game, this is really, really good. I still prefer that Tanduay, but this for me is now well above the Bacardi 8-year-old. It's above the Havana 7-year-old, but it is sweeter. The Havana 7-year-old is not as sweet as the Bacardi. It's not as sweet as this, but I think what you do need with these kind of rums is that little element of sweetness to kind of, yeah, these are your, you know, this whole section here are your gateway rums. They are taking you from sweet spiced rums to proper unsweetened rum that's been in a barrel for a few years, aged rum. You know, these are your bridge, your gateway rums. And I think actually, now that I'm here, I think actually this is more of a bridge gateway rum than what the Bacardi 8-year-old is. Yes, there's still an element of sweetness, of vanilla or caramel, you know, but it's actually a little bit more refined than the Bacardi. I think the distinguishment I'm going to put here, look, it's very much a similar profile to what I've kind of given here. Ignoring that. The one distinguishment this has got that the others haven't got, I've got a nuttiness from this now. I'm not convinced for almond. I'm not convinced I'm even going, like, I relate nuts to liqueurs. I'm not convinced I'm going Amaretto di Serrano. I'm probably more sitting towards the Frangelico hazelnut kind of vibes, but maybe a little touch of walnut on there as well. There's definitely a nuttiness to it. I don't think it's kind of an Amaretto, an almond, if you like. Right now, at this point in my journey, would I restock that bowl? It does sit up on my back bar. Would I restock that? No. Would I restock that? No. Would I restock that? No. I'm not going to say about that because there's a video there. The whole reason I wouldn't restock any of those is because of that. That's delicious. So we've attacked what I would call is the gateway accessible, very obvious, even that, because it is a Spanish origin, Spanish style column, high ABV column still rum. That's what they are. We now go very, very different. And it's a big note here that none of the top, well, only one of the top 10, and it's in 10th place, you know, none of the top 10 are pot distilled rums. They're all column distilled rums. They're all lighter rums. And that for me is quite fascinating in itself. But to give you the distinction, I'm going to taste this again. I haven't had this neat for a long time. It's always been in cocktails, but we're going for Appleton Age, which is Jamaica. It's only the first, the highest, biggest selling English colony rum out of Barbados, Jamaica, Guyana, those kind of places. You know, Appleton Signature would be the bulk of this. I think probably on island, they're Kingston 62s, or is Kingston 62 here in the UK, but probably more Appleton. I think it's still Appleton White and Appleton Gold out locally, but in it's right here. You know, Kingston 62, that is their cheap brand. Okay, but I still think it's got I'm not convinced it's Kingston 62 out in Jamaica. But let's not get away from the fact Appleton Signature is going to sell a lot more than what Appleton 8-year-old is. But how does this differ from those? So first off, do we get funk? It's this Jamaican rum. Do we get funk? No, not in that sense. But we do get a little nod to banana now. We're going to get different aromas coming off this because this is pot distilled. So with this, there is banana, there is vanilla, there is this woody, oaky bite to it. There's a little bit of honey off there as well. And so the more I sit with it, actually the more pineapple, tropical fruit vibes that I'm getting off this as well. It is a very, very different profile to everything I've got there so far. And on tasting, do you know what? I really do think it's delicious. I did go to Campari HQ a few months ago now for an Appleton tasting in London. Signature. And it was quite funny because I was in a room of, I'm going to call them rum geeks. They're all my mates, but I was in a room of rum geeks, and it was quite hilarious because I really like the Signature. I really like the 8-year-old. The 12-year-old, I was like, when we got to the 15 and the hearts and all that, I just gave them away. I just gave those rums away because, you know, for me, I'd rather sip on this than the Appleton 12 or the Appleton 15. The Appleton Hearts was there. They're good rums. But these are just me. Banana, vanilla, bit of soft caramel, bit of soft oak. There's nothing on there that's really burning my tongue or anything like that. Bit of tropical fruit. It is still going. The finish on that is so long compared to those. And then as you sort of swill it and coat your tongue with it, there's an orangey vibe coming to it. There's a honey vibe coming to it. When it comes to, right, let's sum this video up now. The two stand out to me. This is quite funny. And obviously I can't get number 4, number 7, number 8, number 9. The two stand out for me are the first place one, number 1, Tanduay, and the 10th place one. And there's a huge gulf in volume between them of what they sell there. But they are ultimately very different rums. But if you want the premium upgrade from the biggest selling rum brands in the world, I would highly recommend these two rums. Very, very different. They're going to make very different drinks, whether you're sipping neat, whether you're sipping rum and cokes, rum and ginger beers, whether you use them in cocktails. Very, very different drinks. But as to split these, look, these two are head and shoulders above everything I've put there. And again, as I keep saying, I'm not including that because that's a separate video, so you have to go and watch that video. But these two are very different proposition to those two. And I can't split them because I like them for very different reasons. So there we go. Probably a slightly longer video than normal, but feedback from you guys that are still watching from this. Out of the top 10 rums, and I'll put them on screen again, out of the top 10 rum brands, I should say, what would be your pick? Out of those 10 brands, of all the rums that they produce, I know there's going to be a lot of Appleton 12s, pipe up now, and a lot of Appleton 15s and all that sort of stuff. Out of those top 10 brands, what is the one rum that you recommend people try out of that? And let's just say this to emphasize this again. To sell that much rum, they have got to be producing some really good stuff. And that's evidence. You know, I'm not going to have anyone say a bad word against that because I really like that. That's the shocker of this video. That's really delicious.